The Void's End was exactly the kind of place where trouble lived. Dim lights barely cut through the smoke that hung in the air like fog. The bar sat on the lowest level of Nexus Station, where the metal walls were old and stained and nobody asked too many questions. Aliens from a dozen different worlds filled the tables and booths, drinking things that would kill a human in one sip, or eating food that moved on the plate. Dae-hyun pushed through the door first, his boots making soft sounds on the sticky floor. He was not a big man by human standards, maybe average height with dark hair and tired eyes. Behind him came Hana, wiping grease off her hands with a rag. She had been elbow deep in the ship's engine for 3 hours, fixing a problem that should not have existed. Her black hair was pulled back in a messy knot and she smelled like fuel and sweat. "Finally," Hana said, heading straight for the bar. "I need something strong and cold." Dae-hyun followed her, his eyes scanning the room out of habit. 15 years since humans had joined the galactic community, and he still felt like an outsider in places like this. Most of the aliens barely looked at them. Humans were new, small, and weak in the eyes of the galaxy. No claws, no fangs, no armor plating. Just soft skin and fragile bones. The bartender was a blob of purple gel in a containment suit. It burbled something through a translator box, asking what they wanted. Hana ordered 2 beers, the human kind that the station imported at crazy prices. Dae-hyun paid with his credit chip and carried the bottles to a small table in the corner. They sat down and for a moment everything was fine. The beer was cold. The chair was uncomfortable but stable. The noise of the bar washed over them like background music. Dae-hyun let himself relax for the first time in days. They had just completed a cargo run that paid well, dodging pirates and a solar storm. Tomorrow they would look for the next job, but tonight they could just exist. That peace lasted exactly 7 minutes. Tavix noticed them from across the room. He was Scalrath, one of the reptilian species that controlled a lot of the shipping lanes in this sector. Tall, covered in dark green scales with a mouthful of sharp teeth and eyes like yellow coins. He was drinking with 4 of his crew, all of them loud and aggressive. Scalrath were known for 2 things, being excellent navigators and being terrible drunks. Tavix stared at the 2 humans, his tongue flicking out to taste the air. He said something to his friends and they all laughed. One of them, smaller but meaner looking, made a gesture that did not need translation. It was insulting in any language. "Ignore them," Dae-hyun said quietly. Hana took a drink from her beer and nodded. She had dealt with worse. Every human who worked in space had dealt with worse. The galaxy still saw them as curiosities, weak things that had somehow built starships. Most aliens thought humans were a joke. Tavix stood up. His chair scraped against the floor with an ugly sound. He picked up his drink, something thick and orange, and walked toward their table. His crew followed him like shadows. "Look," Tavix said, his translator turning his hissing voice into something understandable. "The little humans are drinking their tiny drinks." Dae-hyun looked up at him but said nothing. Eye contact was important. Show fear and creatures like Tavix would push harder. Show aggression, and they would see it as a challenge. So Dae-hyun just looked at him with flat, tired eyes and waited. Tavix did not like being ignored. He stepped closer, his bulk blocking the light from above. He was easily 7 feet tall and his shoulders were twice as wide as Dae-hyun's. His claws clicked against his glass. "I am talking to you, soft skin." "I hear you," Dae-hyun said. His voice was calm. "We are just having a drink." "No trouble." "No trouble," Tavix repeated, mocking him. "You hear that?" "The human says no trouble." His crew laughed again. "You know what I think? I think humans should not be in places like this. This is a bar for real species, for hunters, for warriors." Hana set her beer down slowly. "We paid for our drinks just like everyone else." Tavix looked at her like he had just noticed she existed. "The female speaks. How cute." He tilted his glass and the orange liquid spilled out, splashing all over Hana's shirt and lap. The liquid was cold and smelled like rotting fruit. "Oops, my hand slipped." The bar got quieter. Not silent, but quieter. Other patrons were watching now. Some looked curious. Others looked uncomfortable. A few looked excited, hoping for entertainment. Dae-hyun stood up slowly. He was still shorter than Tavix and probably weighed half as much. "You need to apologize to my friend." Tavix laughed, a barking sound that hurt the ears. "Or what? You will cry at me? You will bleed on my shoes?" He reached out with one clawed hand and shoved Dae-hyun hard in the chest. Dae-hyun stumbled back 2 steps. The shove was strong, meant to send him to the floor. but he kept his feet under him and straightened up. He looked at Tavix, then at Hana, then back at Tavix. "Wrong move, friend," Daehyun said quietly. What happened next happened fast. Daehyun's fist came up and caught Tavix right on the snout, that sensitive spot where the scales were thin. There was a wet crunch sound. Tavix roared and stumbled back, purple blood leaking from his nostrils. His crew froze for half a second, shocked. Daehyun shook out his hand. His knuckles were already swelling. "Hana, you good?" Hana stood up, dripping with orange liquid and smiling like a wolf. "Oh, I am very good." The 4 Scalrath crew members moved at once. The bar erupted into chaos. Chairs scraped, glasses shattered, and voices rose in alarm and excitement. Across the room, an insectoid creature named Bryn activated her neural implant and started recording. This, she thought, was going to be interesting. Daehyun ducked under a wild swing and drove his elbow into the stomach of the nearest Scalrath. The alien wheezed and doubled over. These creatures were stronger than humans, faster than humans, and had natural weapons that could tear flesh. But Daehyun had grown up on Earth, where humans learned to fight things bigger than themselves. He had learned that lesson well. Tavix, still bleeding, roared and charged forward with murder in his yellow eyes. Tavix crashed into Daehyun like a freight train. They went down together, hitting a table that collapsed under their combined weight. Glasses exploded. Something sharp cut Daehyun's arm, but he barely felt it. His hands found Tavix's throat, squeezing hard. The Scalrath's scales were tough, but the soft tissue underneath was just as vulnerable as any other creature's. The alien's claws raked down Daehyun's back, shredding his shirt and cutting skin. 3 long wounds opened up and blood started flowing. Tavix expected the human to let go, to scream, to stop. Humans were supposed to be fragile. They were supposed to break easily. Daehyun did not let go. He squeezed harder and brought his knee up into Tavix's ribs. Once. Twice. 3 times. The Scalrath made a choking sound and threw Daehyun off him with desperate strength. Daehyun rolled across the floor and came up to his feet. Blood ran down his back and dripped from his arm. His breathing was heavy but controlled. Across from him, Tavix was gasping, one hand on his throat, the other pointing at Daehyun with a shaking claw. "Kill him," Tavix croaked to his crew. Hana was already dealing with 2 of them. She had grabbed a metal serving tray from a nearby table and was using it like a shield and weapon. One Scalrath swung at her head with a bottle. She blocked it with the tray and the bottle shattered. Then she swung the tray back and hit him in the face. The alien staggered back, confused. The impact should not have hurt him that much. But the human had put her whole body behind the swing. The second Scalrath tried to grab Hana from behind. She dropped low, spinning and slamming the edge of the tray into his knee. There was a pop and the alien howled, falling to the floor. Hana kicked him in the head as he went down. Not hard enough to kill, but hard enough to keep him there for a while. She was laughing. Actually laughing. Her nose was bleeding where someone had hit her earlier, but she did not seem to care. "Come on," she shouted at the remaining Scalrath. "That all you got?" Across the bar, 2 more humans stood up from their table. Jinwoo was older, maybe 50, with scars on his face and arms that told stories of a violent life. Next to him was Yuna, younger and smaller, with sharp eyes and quick hands. They had been watching the fight with interest, drinking their beers and minding their business. But when they saw 2 humans fighting 5 Scalrath, something changed. "We helping?" Yuna asked. Jinwoo drained his beer and set the glass down carefully. "We're helping." They moved into the fight without drama. Jinwoo grabbed a chair and threw it at the Scalrath, who was moving toward Hana's blind side. The chair hit the alien in the back and he turned, snarling. Jinwoo grinned, showing teeth. "Hi there." Yuna went straight for the one fighting Daehyun. She was small, barely 5 feet tall, but she moved like water. The Scalrath swung at her. She ducked under it, came up inside his reach and punched him in the throat. Not a hard punch, but placed perfectly. The alien made a gagging sound and stumbled back. The bar's security finally noticed the problem. Grelvac came out from the back room, all 4 of his arms flexing. He was Bruthan, a species bred for physical labor and fighting. He stood almost 8 feet tall, with gray skin like stone and muscles that looked like they had been carved from rock. His job was to stop fights, and he was very good at his job. "Everyone stop," Grelvac bellowed. His voice cut through the noise like a blade. Now, nobody stopped. The fight had gone too far for that. Tavix threw a punch at Daehyun that would have taken his head off. Daehyun leaned back, felt the claws pass inches from his face, and kicked Tavix in the chest. The Skalrath flew backward and crashed into the bar, cracking the wood. Yuna saw Grelvac coming and did something stupid. She grabbed another chair, lifted it over her head and threw it at the massive Bruthan. The chair hit him in the face. It did not hurt him much, but it surprised him. He stopped and stared at her. "Did you just throw a chair at me?" he asked, genuinely confused. Yuna shrugged. "Yeah, you want another one?" Grelvac had been working security for 10 years. He had seen hundreds of fights. He had stopped wars between drunken pirates. He had pulled apart creatures that wanted to kill each other. But he had never seen anyone as small as this human throw furniture at him, and then ask if he wanted more. "What is wrong with your species?" he asked. The question hung in the air for a moment. Then Jinwoo answered while kicking a Skalrath in the stomach. "Lots of things. We make a list later." Daehyun was hurt. He could feel it now that the adrenaline was wearing off a bit. The cuts on his back burned. His knuckles were swollen and possibly broken. His ribs hurt where Tavix had clawed him. There was blood in his mouth from a hit he did not remember taking. By all rights, he should be on the floor, unconscious or crying. Instead, he was still standing. Still fighting, he moved toward Tavix, who was trying to get up from the wreckage of the bar. The Skalrath looked up at him with fear in his yellow eyes. That fear was new. He was bigger, stronger, better armed by nature. But the human just kept coming. "Stay down," Daehyun said. His voice was rough. "I don't want to hurt you more." Tavix did not listen. He lunged forward with a desperate attack. Daehyun caught his arm twisted and heard something crack. Tavix screamed and fell to his knees. Daehyun let him go and stepped back, breathing hard. Around the bar, the fight was ending. 3 of the Skalrath crew were on the floor, groaning. The 4th one ran for the door, deciding that staying was a bad idea. Hana sat down on a broken table, still holding her bent and dented tray. Blood ran from her nose and a cut above her eye. She was smiling. Jinwoo had a split lip and was holding his side, but he gave Daehyun a nod of respect. Yuna was checking her hands for broken bones and seemed satisfied that everything still worked. Grelvac looked around at the destruction. 4 humans, all of them injured and bleeding, all of them still standing. 5 Skalrath bigger and stronger by biology. All of them down or running. The math did not make sense. In the corner, Bryn the insectoid was still recording everything. Her compound eyes were wide with fascination. She had just witnessed something that the galaxy did not understand yet. Something important. Station security burst through the door, weapons drawn and voices shouting. The humans raised their hands slowly, showing they were done fighting. But none of them looked scared. None of them looked beaten. And that, Bryn thought, was the most interesting thing of all. The station security locked the 4 humans in separate holding cells while they sorted out what happened. The cells were small, clean, and cold. Daehyun sat on the metal bench and tried not to think about how much his back hurt. The cuts had stopped bleeding mostly, but every time he moved, they pulled and burned. A medical drone came by first. It scanned him with blue light and made worried beeping sounds. Then it flew away to get a real doctor. 20 minutes later, Dr. Velmora arrived. She was Quillen, bird-like with gray feathers and large black eyes. She looked at Daehyun through the cell bars and made a clicking sound of distress. "You need to come with me to medical," she said. Her voice was soft but firm. "Those wounds are severe." Daehyun shook his head. "I'm fine. Just some cuts. Dr. Velmora pulled up her datapad and showed him the scan results. "You have 3 lacerations on your back, each approximately 15 centimeters long and 2 centimeters deep. You have a fractured rib. Your right hand has 2 broken knuckles. You have a mild concussion. By any medical standard in the galaxy, you should be unconscious or in shock." "But I'm not," Daehyun said simply. The doctor stared at him for a long moment. "No, you are not. Why?" Daehyun did not know how to explain it. Humans just worked differently. Pain was information, not a command. It told you something was wrong, but it did not force you to stop. He had known soldiers who fought with worse injuries. He had known construction workers who finished their shifts with broken bones. It was just how humans were built. "Can you fix me or not?" he asked. Dr. Velmora opened the cell and gestured for him to follow. "Come, but I am putting this in my report. Your species is medically abnormal." In the medical bay, all 4 humans were brought together. Hana had a bandage over her eye and was arguing with a nurse about whether she needed stitches. Jinwoo was letting a drone clean the cut on his lip, while he made jokes about how the other guy looked worse. Yuna sat quietly, holding an ice pack to her bruised knuckles. Dr. Velmora examined each of them with growing concern. She had studied many species in her career, but humans confused her. Their bodies were weak in so many ways. Thin skin that cut easily, bones that broke under pressure, no natural armor or weapons, and yet they fought like they were invincible. "Why do you not stop when you are injured?" she asked Hana while stitching the cut above her eye. Hana thought about it. "Stopping gets you killed. If something is trying to hurt you, you hurt it back. You keep going until the threat is gone or you are dead. That's how we survived on Earth." "But the pain," Dr. Velmora said. "Most species cannot function with this level of pain." "Pain is just your body talking," Hana replied. "Doesn't mean you have to listen." The doctor made a note on her pad. She was going to write a very long report about this. While the humans were being patched up, Station Security Chief Rax was watching the security footage. He was a tall, thin alien with too many joints in his arms and legs. He had seen thousands of fights in his career. Bar brawls were common on Nexus Station, but this one was different. He watched the footage 3 times. Each time, he saw the same impossible things. Daehyun taking hits that should have broken him but getting back up. Hana laughing while blood ran down her face. Yuna throwing a chair at Grelvak like she did not care about the size difference. Jinwoo fighting with his eyes cold and his movements precise, like violence was something he had done 1,000 times before. "This doesn't make sense," Rax muttered to himself. His deputy, a young Scalrath named Mix, looked over his shoulder at the screen. "What do you mean?" "Watch this part." Rax pointed at the screen. "The human, Daehyun, see that?" Tavix just clawed his back. 3 deep cuts. That should have ended the fight. Pain alone should have dropped him. But it didn't. Mick said quietly. "No, it didn't." He barely reacted. "And look here." Rax moved the footage forward. "The small one, Yuna. She takes a punch to the ribs from a Scalrath. That's over 400 kilograms of force. Her body mass is what, 50 kilograms? She should have internal bleeding at minimum. But she keeps fighting." Mix finished. Rax nodded slowly. "I need to talk to someone who knows about humans." That someone was Sujin, the human diplomatic representative assigned to Nexus Station. She arrived an hour later, wearing a formal suit and carrying a data pad. She was in her 40s with silver streaks in her black hair and eyes that missed nothing. She had been a soldier before becoming a diplomat, and it showed in the way she walked. "Chief Rax," she said, shaking his hand. The gesture still felt strange to him. Humans like touching each other in greeting. "I hear some of my people got into trouble." "They defended themselves," Rax said carefully. "The footage shows that Tavix initiated the confrontation. Your people responded with what I can only call excessive force." Sujin raised an eyebrow. 4 humans against 5 Scalrath, and you think the humans used excessive force?" "They put all 5 in the medical bay," Rax said. 4 of them required serious treatment. 1 of them has a broken arm and fractured jaw. Your people are hurt, yes, but they walked out under their own power." Sujin sighed. "Let me guess. You want to know how?" "I want to understand," Rax said. "We have been sharing this galaxy with dozens of species for centuries. We understand their capabilities. But humans are new, and this incident suggests we have seriously underestimated you." Sujin pulled up a file on her datapad and showed it to him. "This is a report from the Galactic Medical Council, written 3 years after first contact. It says that humans are fragile, weak, and unsuited for physical conflict. It recommends that we be restricted to non-combat roles in mixed species environments." "That seems reasonable based on your physiology," Rax said. "It would be." Sujin agreed, "except the report is completely wrong. It was written by doctors who studied human biology, but never studied human behavior. They looked at our bodies and saw weakness. They didn't look at our history." She pulled up another file. "This is Earth, our home world. It's a death world by galactic standards. High gravity, extreme weather, dangerous predators, and diseases that evolve constantly. Every species that survived there had to be tough. Humans survived there by being tougher than everything else." Rax looked at the images of Earth. Storms that could level cities, predators with claws and teeth, microscopic organisms that killed millions. "How did you survive?" "We outlasted everything," Sujin said simply. "We are persistence hunters. We chase prey until it collapses from exhaustion. We fight until we win or die. We heal from injuries that would kill most species. And we don't stop just because something hurts." Across the station, Bryn the insectoid was uploading her footage to the galactic network. She added a simple title, Bar Fight Humans vs. Skalrath. Within an hour, it had 10,000 views. Within a day, 10 million. Within a week, every species in the galaxy was watching it and trying to understand what they were seeing. The conversation about humans was just beginning. The Galactic Council chamber was enormous, built to hold representatives from 60 different species. The ceiling was so high that clouds could form up there. The walls were decorated with symbols of peace and cooperation. Today, that peace felt fragile. Council Prime Zathros called the emergency session to order. He was ancient, even by the standards of his long-lived species. His skin was like old leather, and his 3 eyes had seen the rise and fall of civilizations. He looked tired. "We are here to discuss the human situation," Zathros announced. His voice echoed through the chamber. "The incident on Nexus Station has raised serious questions about our understanding of this species. Questions that demand answers." In the audience section, representatives from dozens of worlds murmured to each other. The video of the bar fight had spread like wildfire. Everyone had seen it. Everyone had opinions. Most of those opinions involved fear. A Bruthan representative stood up, his forearms crossed. "I propose we limit human presence in mixed species areas. They are clearly dangerous." A Quillan representative chirped in agreement. "My people have always said that Deathworld species should be quarantined. Humans prove that this policy is correct." But a Skalrath elder, older and wiser than Tavix, shook his head. "We initiated that confrontation. The humans defended themselves. If we punish them for our mistakes, we are cowards." The chamber erupted in argument. Voices rose in a dozen languages. Translators worked overtime to keep up. Zathros banged his gavel, a massive thing that sounded like thunder. "Silence," he commanded. "We have invited an expert to speak. Professor Taeyang of Earth, specialist in human evolution and biology. Please share your knowledge." Professor Taeyang walked to the center of the chamber. He was an older human, maybe 60, with gray hair and kind eyes. He carried nothing but a small remote control. When he pressed it, holographic displays filled the air above the council floor. "Thank you for inviting me," Taeyang said. His voice was calm and clear. "I understand that recent events have concerned you. I am here to explain why humans behave the way we do." The first hologram showed Earth spinning slowly. "This is our home. You have classified it as a Class 9 death world. High gravity, dangerous weather, abundant predators, and diseases that adapt faster than most medical science can track. Most species would never evolve on a world like this. Those that do are usually aggressive predators. But humans are not predators," a representative called out. "You have no claws, no fangs, no venom." Taeyang nodded. "Correct. We evolved as something different, something that many of you do not have a word for. We call it persistence hunting." The hologram changed to show ancient humans running across a grassland, chasing a large animal. "Our ancestors hunted by chasing prey for hours, sometimes days. The animal would run fast at first, trying to escape, but we would follow. Hour after hour, the animal would get tired, would overheat, would need to stop. We would not stop. Eventually, the animal would collapse from exhaustion. Then we would kill it." The council chamber was silent. The image was disturbing to many of them. This kind of hunting was cruel, relentless. "To do this," Taeyang continued, "we evolved several unique traits. First, extreme endurance. Humans can run for hours without stopping. We can march for days. We can work through exhaustion that would kill most species. The hologram showed a human running a marathon, still going after hours. Second, efficient cooling. We sweat through our skin, which allows us to regulate temperature better than almost any species in the galaxy. This is why we can keep moving when others must rest. Third, pain tolerance. The hologram showed medical scans of a human brain. Our pain response is informational, not debilitating. When we are injured, our brain registers the damage and releases chemicals that allow us to keep functioning. We call it adrenaline. It suppresses pain, increases strength, and sharpens focus. A medical representative stood up. "That is biologically impossible. Pain exists to prevent further injury. A species that ignores pain would destroy itself." "We don't ignore pain," Taeyang corrected gently. "We acknowledge it and choose to continue anyway. Because in our evolutionary history, stopping meant death. If a predator wounded you, you could not lie down and rest. You had to keep running, keep fighting, keep moving until you reached safety. He pressed the remote again. The hologram showed human soldiers from Earth's history, fighting in various wars. This trait served us well when we began fighting each other. Human warfare is unique in the galaxy. We do not fight until first blood or until dominance is established. We fight until one side cannot continue or chooses to surrender. We have studied your wars, Zathros said quietly. They are horrifying. Conflicts lasting years. Millions dead, cities destroyed, and yet humans rebuild and continue. Yes, Taeyang agreed. Because we are also pack-bonding species. We form strong emotional connections with others. We fight harder when protecting those we care about. We endure more suffering for our groups, and we remember those who hurt our people. He showed images of humans helping each other in disasters, in wars, in everyday life. This combination of traits, persistence, pain tolerance, endurance, and pack bonding makes us extremely effective in conflict situations. But it also makes us loyal, determined, and reliable in non-conflict situations. A door at the side of the chamber opened, and Minji walked in. She was a human soldier, currently serving as a military advisor to the Galactic Defense Force. She wore her uniform with pride, and her left arm was a prosthetic metal and synthetic muscle replacing the flesh she had lost years ago. This is Minji, Taeyang introduced her. She volunteered to demonstrate what I have been explaining. Minji stood at attention in the center of the chamber. I lost my arm in combat 7 years ago, she said. An explosion. I also lost 3 fingers on my right hand, had severe burns over 30% of my body, and fractured my spine in 2 places. The council representatives leaned forward, studying her. She looked healthy, strong, completely functional. I was back on active duty 6 months later, Minji continued. The doctors said it was impossible, but I healed. Humans heal from injuries that would permanently disable most species. Our bodies are designed to repair damage and keep going. She held up her right hand, showing the reconstructed fingers. These 3 fingers were regrown using our medical technology. The arm is prosthetic because the damage was too severe for biological repair. But I adapted. Humans adapt. Can you demonstrate your physical capabilities? Zathros asked. Minji nodded. She dropped and did 50 push-ups without stopping, her prosthetic arm working smoothly with her biological one. Then she ran in place for 5 minutes at a pace that would have exhausted most species in 30 seconds. She did not look tired. Our standard military training requires humans to run 10 kilometers in under an hour while carrying 20 kilograms of equipment, Minji explained. In combat conditions, we can fight effectively for up to 20 hours before requiring rest. These are normal expectations for human soldiers. The chamber was silent again. These were not the fragile, weak creatures the galaxy had assumed humans to be. These were something else entirely. Taeyang spoke again. I want to be clear. Humans are not invincible. We can be killed. We can be hurt. But we are far more durable and determined than your initial assessment suggested. The bar fight on Nexus Station was not an anomaly. That is normal human behavior when threatened. What do you want us to do with this information? Zathros asked. Understand us, Taeyang said simply. We don't want to be feared. We want to be respected. We are part of this galactic community now. Judge us by our actions, not your assumptions. The council adjourned to consider everything they had learned. In the hallways outside, representatives talked in hushed voices. The galaxy's understanding of humanity had just shifted. 6 months passed, and the galaxy looked different through human eyes. Daehyun stood in the cargo bay of his ship, checking the manifest for their next job. The numbers were good. Better than good, actually. They were hauling medical supplies through a sector known for pirate activity, and the pay was triple their normal rate. A year ago, nobody would have hired humans for dangerous routes. Now everyone wanted to. We're fully loaded, Hana called from the engine room. All systems green. We can launch whenever you're ready. Daehyun smiled. The ship was the same old rust bucket they had always flown, but everything else had changed. After the bar fight video went viral, offers started coming in. Dangerous jobs that other cargo haulers refused. High-risk contracts with even higher pay. Everyone seemed to think that humans were indestructible now. They were not, of course. They were just harder to stop than expected. A message came through on the comm system. Daehyun answered it and saw Brin's insectoid face on the screen. Hello, Daehyun. Do you have a few minutes? I'm doing a follow-up documentary. Sure, Daehyun said. What do you want to know?
How has your life changed since the incident?
Daehyun thought about it. We get more work. Better pay. Other species treat us differently now. Some are scared. Some are respectful. Some want to hire us for things we have no business doing. Like what? Yesterday, someone offered me a job as a bodyguard for a Quillen merchant. I'm a cargo hauler, not a soldier, but they saw the video and assumed I could protect them from anything. Bryn's mandibles clicked, her version of a laugh. Can you? Probably not, Daehyun admitted. But I could try really hard and not give up. Apparently, that counts for a lot now. Across the station in a different part of the docks, Jinwoo and Yuna were having a similar conversation with a recruiter from a mercenary company. The recruiter was a tall, armored creature with too many eyes and a professional smile. We would like to offer you both positions in our security division, the recruiter said. The pay is excellent and you would be working with the best fighters in the galaxy. Jinwoo leaned back in his chair. What's the catch? No catch. We need personnel who can handle difficult situations. The video from Nexus Station demonstrated that humans have skills we value. Yuna shook her head. You mean you want us because we're scary now? The recruiter's smile faded. Yes, reputation matters in our business. Having humans on the team sends a message. It says we are serious, prepared, and not to be trifled with. That's honest at least, Jinwoo said. What kind of work? Protection details, escort missions, facility security. Nothing illegal. Nothing that violates Galactic Council regulations. Just standard security work, but in high-risk environments. Yuna looked at Jinwoo. They had been partners for years, watching each other's backs through bad jobs and worse situations. This could be steady work with good pay, or it could be a trap. We'll think about it, Jinwoo said finally. After the recruiter left, Yuna sighed. Everything is different now. Yeah, Jinwoo agreed. The galaxy thinks we're monsters who don't feel pain and never stop fighting. We're not monsters, Yuna said quietly. No, but we are what we are. And maybe it's better that they know that now. In the diplomatic offices of Nexus Station, Sujin was reviewing reports from across the galaxy. The bar fight had started something that nobody could have predicted. Human employment was up 30%. Applications to join human cargo crews had tripled. 3 different species had formally requested human military advisors. But there were problems too. Incidents of aliens deliberately provoking humans to see if the stories were true. Humans getting into fights because they felt they had a reputation to maintain. And worst of all, a growing fear among some species that humans might be dangerous. Sujin's assistant, a young human named Kyung-soo, brought her another report. The Galactic Council has issued new guidelines, he said. All establishments serving multiple species must now post warnings about human presence. What kind of warnings? Sujin asked, dreading the answer. Kyung-soo read from his datapad. Notice humans on premises. This species exhibits high pain tolerance and will continue fighting when injured. Do not initiate physical conflict. If conflict occurs, retreat immediately and alert security. Sujin put her head in her hands. They're treating us like dangerous animals. Technically, they're treating us like what we are, Kyung-soo said. The warnings are not wrong. We do keep fighting when hurt. We do have high pain tolerance. Maybe it's good that other species know this before starting trouble. Maybe, Sujin said. But I don't want humans to be feared. I want us to be understood. Can't we be both? Meanwhile, at the Void's end, the bar had been completely repaired. New tables, new chairs, and a new sign behind the bar that read, Humans drink free. Management respectfully requests no physical altercations. The owner, a blob creature named Grix, had decided that having humans as customers was good for business. The bar was now famous across the sector. Tourists came just to see where the fight had happened. Grix had even put up holographic markers showing where each human had stood during the brawl. Tonight, the bar was crowded. Kyung-soo walked in with his cargo crew, 5 humans who had just finished a difficult run through contested space. They were tired, dirty, and ready for drinks. The bar went quiet when they entered. Every alien eye turned to look at them. Kyung-soo felt the weight of those stares. Some were curious. Some were nervous. A few looked calculating, like they were wondering if they could take a human in a fight. Kyung-soo walked to the bar and ordered drinks for his crew. Grix served them personally, his gelatinous body rippling with what might have been pleasure. Welcome, humans. Your credits are no good here. Thanks, Kyung-soo said. He took the drinks back to his crew's table, very aware that the bar was still watching. They sat down and drank in silence for a minute. Then one of his crew, a woman named Brawl, laughed softly. "This is weird, very weird," Kyung-soo agreed. "They're all scared of us." "Should we be worried about that?" another crew member asked. Brawl, who had studied xenoanthropology before becoming a cargo hauler, thought about it. "Fear leads to respect if we're careful. Fear leads to hatred if we're not. We need to show them we're not monsters, just people who happen to be hard to kill." Across the bar, a group of Scalrath were drinking together. One of them kept looking at the humans with something like admiration in his eyes. Finally, he stood up and walked over to their table. Kyung-soo tensed, ready for trouble, but the Scalrath just nodded respectfully. "I wanted to say thank you," he said through his translator. "My cousin was one of the ones who fought you 6 months ago. He was an idiot who started a fight he could not finish. You taught him a lesson about respect. He is better now because of it." Kyung-soo did not know what to say. You're welcome?" The Scalrath nodded again and returned to his table. The bar slowly returned to normal noise levels. Conversations resumed. The humans were just another group of customers now, not a threat or a spectacle. Brawl raised her glass. "To being understood," she said. The crew clinked their glasses together. "To being understood." Later that night, Brawl sat in her bunk on the ship and wrote in her personal journal. She was keeping notes for a book she wanted to write someday about humanity's place in the galaxy. "Today I realized something important," she wrote. "The galaxy thought we were weak because we have no claws or armor. They learned we are strong because we don't need them. But the real lesson is not about strength, it's about restraint. Every human has the capacity to fight past pain, past injury, past reason. We evolved that way because our world demanded it, but we choose not to use that capacity most of the time. We choose peace. We choose cooperation. We choose to talk before we fight." The bar brawl showed the galaxy what happens when humans are pushed too far, but the months that followed showed them what happens when humans are given respect. We don't want to be feared. We just want to be left alone to do our jobs, drink our drinks, and live our lives. Maybe that's the most frightening thing of all. Not that we can fight, but that we choose when to fight. Not that we don't feel pain, but that we decide how much pain to tolerate. Not that we're strong, but that we're stronger than we look and smarter than we act. The galaxy is learning, slowly, and maybe eventually they'll understand that humans are not monsters or weapons. We're just people from a hard world who learned to be harder, and that's enough. She closed the journal and turned off the light. Tomorrow they would haul cargo through dangerous space. Next week they would negotiate contracts with species that used to ignore them. Next month they would help write new guidelines for human-alien interactions. The galaxy was changing. Humans were part of that change now, and somehow, despite everything, that felt right in her dreams. Brawl saw Earth, that beautiful, deadly world where humans had learned to survive. She saw the grasslands where ancient humans had chased their prey until it fell. She saw the cities where modern humans had built civilization, despite every disaster nature threw at them. And she understood, finally, what it meant to be human in a galaxy that had never seen anything like them before. It meant being underestimated until you weren't. It meant being feared until you proved you were worth respecting. It meant carrying the legacy of a hard world and choosing every day to